It's January 31st, 2019, and you're listening to the Beer Temple Insiders
Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again.
Hello. Oh, okay. I just couldn't hear myself. Hello, and welcome to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. It's okay, Serge. We're experiencing some technical difficulties this Thursday evening. I'm not sure that it's entirely on your side, but it's got you flustered. I get it. You might not want to have Dave Hawley's mic on because he has no idea that we can hear everything he's doing and just kind of walking around and stuff like that. But anyway, I wanted to thank everyone out there for listening. We are coming to you from Studio B, as always, here at the Co-Prosperity Station. Thanks to Lumpen Radio and its fearless leader, Logan Bay, for inviting us, holding it down, and all the like. And thanks to all you guys out there for tuning into 105.5 FM on your dial, or however you listen to it live, TuneIn Radio or something like that. I've been hearing from a few people in the past week or so who listen live on the reg. So it's not just Doug Valicki who needed to make sure I told everyone that he's not a loser and to qualify why he was listening in that particular evening. Doug couldn't be here because he's doing a special little show with DDB tonight.
Whatever.
Yeah. Malt Couture.
Jealous.
Yeah.
So much disdain.
Yes.
I'm surprised you didn't cancel the show to get a front row seat when the watermelon gets smashed on stage.
That's true.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to thank everyone who does listen live, and I want to thank everyone who's listening via podcast, who isn't listening live. And if you enjoy the show, then feel free to leave a review or tell someone. Tell a cholo, as EdMar would say. And, it's the best way to learn about this show. I think that's the word of mouth, cholo to cholo is really the best way to spread the word.
C2C marketing.
Yeah. So
I can't.
For those of you who are new to the show, there's something that I like to say every week that I'm going to skip this week because I don't have my written monologue up.
No, you got to go for it.
I can't.
You have
Plus,
to go for it.
We're 10 minutes late.
You got to try it.
I like talking about beer with people who know beer, and I think it's fun. Some of my most enjoyable beer experiences are talking to people who know beer and talking in depth about that sort of stuff. And that's what this show tries to capture. That's what we're trying to do. It's kind of like an inside baseball with people who may, at some level, know beer. Not well enough to not have hot takes all the time. That's mainly me. And, so that's what we try to do. So with that, I'm going to introduce my guests. Before I do, I have to mention that their opinions are their own and are not the opinions of any other entity that they may be affiliated with, such as Lumpen Radio or the Beer Temple or anywhere, really. Anything. Mormonism, yeah. But, yeah, we're furiously trying to get our last second Skype guest who just downloaded Skype, and I'm going to blame Dave. He can't hear us anyway, so I'll blame him. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Syndrome.
He's like, unmute your speakers. It's going to be something like that. But anyway, we're going to go and introduce our guests. We always introduce our guests in order of seniority, that being how many times they've been on the show. And we've got two heavy hitters from a seniority standpoint on the show. One, such a heavy hitter that doesn't need to pay attention at the beginning of the show. He can quickly read the outline and the stories that he's had to review, or do a social media blast, or all sorts of stuff. For long-time listeners of the show, you already know who I'm talking about just based on that description, Mr. Ed Marzewski.
Oh, thank you, Chris. Thank you so much for highlighting my skills at using a personal iPhone device in one hand and a laptop in another, and my Game Boy with my toes.
I was just going to say, for those of you out there, I'm sure you're doing a countdown to how soon he will talk about playing video games. And it's close to a record. Probably not a record, but close to a record.
I think the first sentence
Top 3
is pretty good.
Yeah, but sometimes
pretty high.
Like, how are you, Ed? And sometimes it'll be like, my gaming is, it'll be like second word is game.
It's true. I mean, even recently I've been having issues leveling up my support troop in Battlefield 5. It took me a long time to get the MP42 machine gun with a tripod. Mm-hmm. And guess what?
What?
After I got it,
yeah?
spending hours, days trying to get this machine gun.
Well spent.
They're basically banned on most servers, and they get nerfed, and you can't even use them. Nobody, not reading Reddit.
How do you have
Where is the beer and gaming show that we talked about doing 3 years ago?
Yeah.
These tips could be shared.
I think basically you've just decided that this is that show.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I forgot.
Yeah.
The beer.
Oh, am I supposed to give my top 3 tips for Overwatch updates, or is that later?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Chris, it's great to be here. I love your show. I love hanging out, talking with all the cats about beer and the industry and what's happening or what happened and what may happen in our crazy world.
Well, we're late getting
beer.
started, so I'm going to move. Everyone knows if anyone has ever listened to the show, they probably know you. If it's their first time listening,
okay,
you just got you now know him.
Yeah,
this is who he is. What you just said is that is it.
Feeling good.
My next guest is a man who needs no introduction unless, mainly he doesn't need one, because if I went through all his nom de beers, it would take a long, long time. I'm talking about Mr. Mike Strong, one of the Dust brothers, I believe. Dusty, Dusty Strong. And you were reunited. You shared a dust. I know you guys had a little, a little spat.
Well, he's secretly snuck off and started becoming a Haze bro.
Whoa.
I don't know if we could ever really forgive him for that one. He was kind of obsessed with JBUs for a minute. But then when he closed his eyes, he realized that nothing has more JBUs than dust.
Right. It's true.
It's the ultimate juice bomb.
Yeah, it's the ultimate juice bomb. So you guys shared a dust.
Well, we each had our own dust. We're
not shared
close.
A dust experience.
Oh, yeah.
Like, let's have it like sharing a Coke, or, you
I
sat down.
I shared a dust experience with many people that night. It was a great night.
Yeah.
Got very dusted.
Many of your greatest experiences are sharing dust with people who like dust and admire
I've
dust.
said something similar on the air.
Can you let the listeners know what you're talking about, please? I mean, if I can intervene here. Dust. What are you talking about?
Zombie dust.
What is that?
Zombie dust is a beer that...
It's the beer.
Yeah, it's a beer.
It's the original Citra Pale Ale.
Yeah, it is.
We did that dusting with the Cool Breeze.
Yeah.
The Cool Breeze, the maker. He's no Bogus, but he's now the maker of the dust, which was a real honor for me.
Yeah, you had him flown in for your birthday.
That's right. I had him flown in from Indiana. It actually was way more expensive. He had to drive to O'Hare and then fly to another city and then fly back to O'Hare.
Yeah, he didn't fly in from Gary, huh? They have an airport. Anyway, thanks for coming on. Is
Gary.
anything new with you other than your dust experience?
I don't know. Probably not. No.
Okay. Well, let's move right along then. We have my next guest is certified as the pastry king of Chicago.
That's right, folks.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Pastry king right here.
I guess it's the first time I've been on since then, huh?
Yeah, you're the Abe Froman of pastry stouts.
I'm royalty now. I'm still waiting for my scepter, Chris.
Yeah. I mean, in the reboot, everything gets a reboot these days. In the Ferris Bueller reboot, they're going to say they're going to go to the fancy now it'll be like a fancy, fusion and molecular gastronomy restaurant,
of course,
instead of a stuffy French place. And they'll look at the list and they'll say, "Oh yeah, I'm Tim Lange, party of
pastry."
Yeah, and like you're Tim Lange,
the
pastry stout king of Chicago.
I can't wait to get the recognition I deserve.
Yeah, that's gonna. So, but anyway, yep, you are the pastry king,
a disruptor in the pastry world.
Yeah,
in the pastry beer world, Tim Lange has disrupted all of the horses.
If you want me to French press flavor,
yeah,
I'm your guy.
Nice.
Yep.
And the beer you're going to be making is called, or the winning beer rather.
Well, we're gonna make There's Always Beer in the Banana Stand.
Yeah.
Little reference to the old Arrested Development.
Mm-hmm. Oh, cool.
Hip-hop group.
We're going to have some delicious bananas in there. Surprise, surprise. It's going to be great.
Yeah. So that's what it's a reference to the late 80s hip-hop group?
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well done.
I'm glad you got that.
Yeah. Picked up on that.
Take me to a banana stand. Take me to a place that's cool. Take me with a pastry stout in every banana stew.
It's been so long, I forgot that those are the lyrics, but I guess you're
Those
right.
are the lyrics of their hit song, Banana Stand.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, Tim.
Thank you for recognizing my talents.
You're welcome. I mean, it wasn't I who recognized your talents.
No,
it was
amazing.
Yeah,
Actually,
my next guest, Ms. Shana Solarte, of the Cicerone Certification Program, one of the judges of the Pastry Boys Battle Royale, which you claimed victory at. And so, Shana, the rule, or the custom, I should say, is first-time guests introduce themselves. So can you let everyone know who you are and, where you stand on pastry stout competitions or whatever.
Of course. I am Shana Solarte. As Chris said, I work for the Cicerone Certification Program, where I am the content manager. I am an advanced Cicerone, so I took some exams. I'm just a nerd. It's okay.
Did you make the flashcard app?
No, we don't have a flashcard app, Ed.
Wait, there is a Cicerone flashcard app to cheat on that test.
Yeah,
third parties made that? It's not your...
we definitely let you use it during the test.
Good news.
So.
Hey, I got a thumbs up.
When is pastry stout going to be an official style?
It'll be on your exam, Tim.
Thank you.
Oh, good. So you do that to curry favor and assure people can
custom
pass.
Tests.
Yeah, customized
custom
tests to
third-party apps allowed
to what I specialize in, and what you've already kind of compromised yourself by saying I'm the best at. So whatever I say is right.
Perfect.
Right.
So humble.
Is there any scandal in the Cicerone world like there was in the Somme universe?
Not yet.
What was the scandal in the Somme universe?
Oh, somebody messed up.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Somebody allegedly leaked answers to one of the Master Somm tasting exams. And 20-something people passed in one go. And then later, the powers that be found out that somebody was messing around and leaked some answers. And so they rescinded everybody's master certification.
All those
Which
20.
Sucks.
All those 20 or literally everybody?
Those 20 from that group. And I don't.
Maybe one of the people didn't have the answers, but
No, it was right. Of that group, it
Interesting.
could have been half of them who passed had no idea, but they had no way to know, and that was that.
Tim, I give you my word. I promise you this. If you ever take and pass the Master Cicerone, I will falsely claim to have leaked answers, so it is taken from you.
Do not do that to me.
Yeah. No, I've already promised, and I can't go back on my word. Sorry.
Tim, just be happy with what you have.
At least I'm the pastry king.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's nothing to scoff at.
And the
Wait,
crown
is
you're
pastry
wearing,
king an
people can't
official
see it. He's
Cicerone
wearing
designation.
Yeah.
It is. There is one in the world.
One pastry king. So it's even rarer.
There's
than a
one Master
Cicerone.
Crusherone.
It's higher than. Well, there's one Master Crusherone.
Yeah.
Of course, but then there's a pastry king.
Yeah, and if you notice,
It's a
he's
higher
wearing
level.
Master Cicerone. There's
He's
a lot of
wearing-
So there are
royalty.
levels above master.
There is
huh?
a lot of royalty in the room right now.
And I want to mention that I know you guys are very
I'm not
comfortable with it, but it is a little distracting for me personally that since that victory, every time I see Tim, including this moment right now, he's wearing a giant golden crown
Yeah.
and a scepter
Yeah.
and a huge purple cape.
yeah.
Very jauntily.
Yeah.
To be fair,
It's my
I brought
favorite
the
color.
cape for him.
Oh,
yeah,
you
did
bought-
you put that fake fur trim on there?
Who says it's
Is that
fake?
like the Cicerone version of like the pin you get when you pass the sommelier exam? You get a purple cape. When you
Well,
pass
that's
the
pastry kings only.
pastry kings only.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Which is also a new.
we're off to a great start,
PKO.
guys.
A new reality
we are
TV show.
right on the rails. We are
The
on
Real Lives of
topic.
Pastry
This is
Kings of
going
Chicago.
A new reality TV show, The Pastry Kings, is coming out on Lifetime Network in the spring.
On Lifetime.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right.
okay, great. It'll be good. It's
You
gonna
know,
be awesome.
moms love cinnamon.
Yeah.
It's not only moms who watch Lifetime. There's some good programming.
Dads love cinnamon too.
That's right. Everyone
Yeah.
loves cinnamon.
Everyone likes cinnamon.
Except for people who are allergic to cinnamon. They probably still like it, though. They just can't.
Pastry boys like cinnamon.
What about your other
Judging
your-
on-
what
judging-
About, what
yeah.
about that?
I sure
virtual
do.
Well, we have our final guest. I believe is ready to go. So we have Skyping in Mr. David Hawley. How are you?
I'm
Yeah.
doing great. How are you guys?
Good. Now I don't know if you could hear us at the time, but first-time guests introduce themselves. So if you could let everyone know who you are, that would be great.
I am Dave Hawley, and I own the beer cellar out in Glen Ellen.
Okay. There you go. Short and sweet.
That's
Very concise.
short and sweet.
Nailed it.
The beer cellar is a it's a slashy, right? It's on
Yeah,
premise,
bottle
off
shop,
premise.
tap room.
Got it. And you're expanding, right?
Yes, we are going to be opening a second location in downtown Geneva sometime this summer.
Nice. Downtown Geneva, not in the suburbs of Geneva, guys.
No, right downtown.
Right
on
downtown.
State Street.
Right on
downtown.
State Street. Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. How far is that from Glen Ellen? That's far. Aren't those places far from each other?
13 miles.
Oh. Never mind. I mean, I have obviously no idea where things are out there, so that's pretty close. 13 miles. Cool. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
I just thought Geneva was like in Wisconsin, basically.
Lake
but-
Geneva.
You're thinking Lake Geneva.
Lake Geneva's Wisconsin.
It's very nice.
All right. I've been here. I've been living here for
That was
16
your-
years,
your
guys.
geography
Actually,
minute.
I think more. I think I've been here for more like 17 or 18 years.
I'm
so-
sorry, Chris.
Yeah. So,
And he has never left the city a single time.
I have.
He has been to beer cellar in Glen Ellen.
I've been to both locations.
Against his will.
I've been to Geneva against my will.
Wait, Geneva, Lake Geneva, or
I've been to both. So
how do you know?
Well, because I've been to Penrose, and I know Penrose is in Geneva.
You're right. You thought that was in Wisconsin?
Well, see, this is the problem. This is the problem with navigation. I just listen for them to tell me what to do, and then I just show up. So that's
You're operating the vehicle and you have no idea where you're going.
well, basically.
You give me rides. To and
Honestly,
from
like
here
is
way
I
too
thought
often.
Geneva was by like Rockford, and they're all just faraway places. I mean that last
flyover
part. I mean,
centers.
the Lake Geneva thing was a joke. Me thinking it was by Rockford was not a joke until Dave just laughed. I did think they were close to each other. I really have no idea where they are.
Rockford is not close to Geneva.
Okay,
Closer than here.
it's true.
That's true. That is true. That's fair.
Anyway, thanks for coming on last moment. Thanks for jumping on, Dave. I
You got
appreciate
it.
So let's get going. As I've said, it's now only a half hour. It's 8:28, but we got a 10-minute late start. I blame Serge. So well done, Serge. You've managed to screw it up again.
Fearful.
Yeah, but let's go around quickly and see if there are any beers that you guys have had lately that you've been excited about, or any beers that you're looking forward to having. Mike, anything?
Well, I had a personal event at Beer Temple recently, and they were kind enough to put on some Jester King with Petit Prince, which I probably had 12 of.
It's a good beer. It's a good beer to have 12 of.
It was a strategic decision.
Yeah.
And I also had some Zombie Dust that night.
Yeah, so Zombie Dust is the one that
Zombie Dust.
we're excited to
Yeah.
have. Good.
That's always nice to try something new.
It is funny in
It's a
that
fresh
moment. We had to get zombie dust obviously because you were there, and then
Right.
Buster walked in and
With Cool Breeze.
with Cool Breeze, and I went and got some dust for you guys.
From the cellar, right? That was cellar dust.
It was cellar dust,
Yep.
and the moment it came out of the cellar, people were legitimately clamoring for it, and I had a 6-pack, and it was all gone, and I didn't have one, and then I noticed you also didn't have one. So then we had to get another 6-pack, and that also evaporated. So it's funny. I mean, when you bring out dust, people want the dust.
My friends who were there who have no idea about any of this were so confused as to what was going on. It was fantastic.
And did you just say Citra?
I don't know what I said to them. That was pretty late in the night.
Yeah.
Even 12 Petite Princes will get you.
Something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tim, anything you've had lately?
Speaking of that night, you had the single fooder Oscar on.
Yeah, from New
And
Belgium.
those are like, Bruins and Flanders and whatever. Those are all kind of some of my favorite beers, and that was really beautiful. I love being able to try, single barrel or single fooder or whatever. That stuff's fun, just to get a taste of what usually composes the whole blends of those beers, and just get the unique aspect of that one tank. It's really cool.
The funny thing about those single barrel beers or whiskeys, and tell me I'm completely wrong, Mr. Strong. I tend to think the blends are actually the more complex and overall better expressions. Sometimes you get a single barrel that is just absolutely stellar. More, it's, to me, interesting to see what a single barrel tastes like versus, pardon me as I burp into the mic, the blend, the kind of the finished product.
Yeah, I think that's usually pretty true. I mean, people get really excited about single barrel whiskeys, but those are almost always the best barrels from whatever that possible picks were there. And the blend actually gives you more complexity.
It's definitely true in pastry stouts where it's like a single adjunct, like a cinnamon stout.
Tell me about
versus
it.
like a cinnamon peanut butter marshmallow stout. Obviously, that one's going to be better because there's more stuff in it.
More whatever has the most extracts is going to win.
Yeah.
Sugar
Moving right
extract.
along, EdMar, anything you've had lately?
I've been drinking a lot of Pocari Sweat, which is one of my favorite beverages of late. I've been trying to hydrate.
What is that?
A Pocari Sweat is a
Goes to
ionized
Japan
ion
once.
replacement beverage. I'm not sure if it's made in Korea or if I'm just drinking the Korean branded version of Pocari Sweat. But it's like it's almost like a sports beverage, kind of like a Gatorade.
It comes in a pouch, right?
Sweat. It comes in a pouch, comes in beautiful cans. If you check out my personal Twitter feed, you'll see beautiful images of the packaging of Pocari Sweat. And then I'm really interested in drinking in the future something that's not like Pocari Sweat. I want to drink this Odell's Hazy beer. What's the one?
Whoa.
I wanna try
Odell's
it out.
I'm thinking of O'Doul's. I was thinking of a non-alcoholic haze whale.
O'Doul's Hazy
that's a
beer,
Mars beer.
NA beer
Yeah.
is coming out pretty soon. I want to try that.
Odell's has a haze?
Apparently, it's supposed to be pretty good. One of the better
They're awesome.
mass-produced or whatever higher quantity of haze producers out there. And I haven't tried it. So has anyone here tried it?
No, I mean, I thought it was
I hear it's
O'Doul's.
worth trying.
Are you saying you're tired of our haze?
Well, not to
Whoa, awkward.
make you feel funny, Pastry King, but I do feel guilty saying on every episode that all I'm drinking is Mars
Low
beer.
fills as you play video games.
Yeah, low fills as I play video games, and even high fills.
Labeled high fills.
Labeled high fills. So I was trying to indicate that I have varied tastes. That's why I went with the Pocari Sweat. And my interest in this beer in the
Fort Collins
marketplace.
beers. Yeah, okay.
This beer in the marketplace that apparently is good. That's what I'm interested in.
Okay. Shana, how about you? You, I'm sure, try so many beers completely analytically. You never actually drink beer to enjoy it. That's true, right?
No, of course not. I hate beer.
Just to
Gross.
find what's wrong with it.
Did you just say you hate beer? Isn't that a new beer rating site?
I hate beer.
Hatebeer.com.
Yeah, hate
Yeah.
beer.
That's really what they all have been. the whole
-1 to
time.
-5 stars.
Yeah.
Anything that you've disliked less than some of the other stuff?
Yeah. I failed to mention earlier that I also work for Chicago's own Dovetail Brewery. So, I drink a lot of Dovetail. But when I am not drinking Dovetail beer, last night...
You prefer Dos Equis.
How did you know, Chris? Oh, my God. Last night I had a couple Two Tree Bell's Two Hearteds, and it had been so long since I've had that beer, and was just so pleased.
What format did you drink it in?
On draft at my corner bar that actually cleans their tap lines, so that was
incredible.
Pleasant. Yeah, it's great.
It's I think Mike and we were talking about that beer. I think as one of just a few beers in American. That's like history of American craft brewing that is just
legitimately iconic.
A truly iconic beer, and kind of a timeless beer that is still relevant.
Yeah, every year
now.
that passes, I think gets more and more impressive as to how good that beer actually is, and like how long it's been around and how relevant it still tastes. It's like, Sierra Nevada's Pale Ale is iconic, but it tastes a little dated compared to something like Two Heart, which is like that came out now. I mean, it's not hazy, so who cares? But it would fit right in if it was a new beer.
It's all Centennial too. So
what?
There's no Citra in that.
What
beer.
Is that?
It's a non-Citra beer.
It's not Citra, is what it is. So
I don't understand.
Yeah.
Well, what I found was really interesting is that I've had the chance to try a couple of the Resilience IPAs from around town. Yeah. And Two Hearted is like kind of right up there with that really nice, rich crystal malt flavor. It's not just hops in your face. It's not hazy, which some of the Resiliences I've had have been a little hazy.
Intentionally hazy? Like
let's not throw
like
words around like intentional. But I found that Resilience,
like that.
Most of the Resiliences I've tried have been pretty nice and reminded me of like, I hesitate to say old school because it's like more than 5 years ago.
Malt and bitterness and hop aroma, and two of those things no longer exist in IPAs from like Mars Brewing.
For the record, Chris, ours dropped clear. I didn't think I could make a clear beer.
Yeah. Were you sad?
Have you ever?
I was a little surprised and excited, and I didn't really know.
What is that?
We took
Tim,
pictures.
Where's the
of it.
flavor? Like, where's the flavor?
That's bitterness, Tim.
Yeah.
What?
I don't
know.
How was the mouth feel? Was it just like drinking water or what?
Have you had Topo Chico?
Little thin. Yeah, it's kind of like a Topo with a little bit of, I think it was Centennial, actually. Not enough Citra, but Centennial.
Okay.
So like a Topo Citra.
Topo Centennial.
Yeah.
Citra Topo sounds great.
Citra Topo. There you go. Write it down. And
Dave,
how about you? Anything you've had lately that you've been enjoying?
Yeah, we just had a keg of Ninjaverse Unicorn on at the beginning of the month.
Garbage.
And
What's
it'd
that?
been a little while since I had that beer.
That beer's mostly clear,
and it's just perfect.
Yeah.
They just hazed that out.
We did.
So maybe it's not as perfect as
that one's completely
as it should be.
That's its own thing.
Now it's perfect.
It's been modified slightly.
Sooner or later, everybody goes to the haze.
The main one's still clear. Well, when we do it right, which is all the time.
It is good beer. It's also it's changed quite a bit since it first came out. I mean, legitimately. It changed, right?
It would change
the ABV and
it would change all the time when we were putting it in bombers. We were just going for a specific kind. Couldn't get hops on a regular basis, but since it's been in cans, it's changed a couple of times to tweak it slightly. But it's been essentially the same recipe and the same execution for the last 2 full years at least, which is a long time for us to not change something.
Yeah, I mean, for real.
Yeah. If it ain't broke.
Fix it.
Yeah, fix it
Tweak
better.
it. Make it less unbroke.
Make it gooder. Yeah.
Make it gooder.
Make it sweet and hazy.
Let's. I'm going to try to get caught up on our time on here. So let's quickly go to our station ID and the promos and stuff like that. About 90 seconds, and then we'll come back on WLPN LP 105.5 Chicago. You like how I just seamlessly threw that in there, Serge? Welcome back to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I'm your host, Chris Quinn, and I am joined by my guests, Dave Hawley, Shana Solarte, EdMar, Tim Lange, and Mike Strong. and also Surge. So let's get right to it. I was going to talk about tap rooms quite a bit. There's this thing called Own Premise that we really haven't talked about every show for the past couple months. So I figured, why not talk about it more? And then somebody sent me a press release from Solarte about a book. Never mind, not about a book, about an event. I just looked up and somebody had a book sitting on the
It's
desk.
the Book of Mormon, actually.
Yeah,
It's
it was
given to
the
me as
Book
a
of
gift.
Mormon. Okay. Anyway, about an event that Dave was going to be at. So I was like, oh, let's see if Dave can come on. That's why he was a last minute invite. So there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff talking about tap rooms and so on and so forth. I wanted to just, there's been some talk about tap room openings, and Ballast Point, I heard, was opening a tap room in Disneyland.
It opened.
It opened, okay, yeah.
Doesn't even
Almanac
sound
is
real.
closing one of their tap rooms. Widmer Brothers closing their tap room after 22 years, citing revenue challenges. So, a lot going on. But before we get into that, I wanted to talk about a beer that isn't a tap room beer. It's called Tap Room Exclusive. And Solarte, who owner John Barley's been on the show several times. I think most recently he was on and we were having a discussion. The entire show was about own premise and the legislation that passed that allowed for guest taps, collaboration taps, stuff like that. And yeah, so I thought it was interesting. And basically it is a beer that is being made, I guess it's technically a collaboration with Hopleaf, Michael Roper. Hopleaf, been on the show several times. Bavarian Lodge, which is just an absolute amazing bar, restaurant out in the suburbs. I think it's in like the Rockford, Geneva area, if I remember correctly. Lyle. And, Lyle.
But
It's a
very
joke.
far
It's
away
called
from all
a-
those places.
It's called a callback. It's a comedy
Wisconsin?
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is a stout. It's a lactose. It's a milk stout, right, with rye and oats.
It's
right?
rye, oats, and lactose is what
Yeah.
I read.
And it's going to be only available at, it sounds like, not just Hopleaf and Bavarian Lodge, but this is my language here, like kind of like key accounts or something like that, certain accounts, but only at those accounts, draft only, not at Solarte. They're not going to pour the beer. And they're not going to package beer, which isn't that big a deal. But I guess they're saying it's only going to be at on premise, and I think what the language that Solarte used, like in the headline of their press release, was, I'll read it right here. Solarte, Hopleaf, and Bavarian Lodge collaborate on new beer, comma, spark industry conversation. So
Seems presumptuous.
It's your own press release. You can't say you're sparking anything.
they're sitting there with their little tinders and spark.
Yeah, it's
Hey,
a whole
it
different
worked.
meaning now.
I'm talking about it. Worked on me. All you got to do is write a press release, and someone else will send it to me, and then, hey, here we are. So they are, So that's what they're doing, and then they're also, with their launch events at Bavarian Lodge and Hopleaf, they're also having like discussions, like panel discussions with industry people. They're kind of getting like a round table that's curated by someone to talk about topics. Wonder where they got that idea.
Would you call that an insiders?
Yeah, it's like an
roundtable?
insider's roundtable. But anyway, Dave, who
Weird.
is sadly, has never been on the show, so I had to one-up him and make sure he got on this show first, is going to be at one of the... I'm assuming you're going to be the one in Bavarian Lodge, or are you going to be at the Hopleaf one?
No, I'm not leaving state lines from Wisconsin.
Got it.
I will be at the Lyle panel.
I thought that
Got
was in
it.
Wisconsin.
That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
Cool. So I figured, why not, kind of get some spoilers onto what Dave kind of thinks of that. And I personally have a lot of thoughts about it. So, do you want to kick it off, Dave, or anyone else?
Yeah, I haven't been given a list of questions or talking points or anything yet, so you really are kind of getting the conversation started here.
Sparked.
But yeah, I mean, I think you guys fight with it a lot more in the city just because of the geographic area, with the amount of tap rooms and slashies and bars and bottle shops. But the suburbs are growing, and we are seeing some customer, not infighting, I don't want to say that, but we're all fighting for the same customers out here. So when you have a place like Bavarian Lodge, who was supporting Solemn Oath early on, and then as Solemn Oath grows and their tap room gets bigger, they're kind of stealing the same customer, and it's hard to put Solemn Oath beer on when your customers are going to their tap room and drinking there, and maybe they're not going to come to your bar to drink Solemn Oath. So it doesn't make sense to have Solemn Oath on your beer menu anymore, or maybe in a limited capacity. But yeah, I think that's what kind of sparked the whole thing, is having the same consumers go to both places and not really wanting to support the other one. Not in a vengeful way, but...
Mm-hmm. Right, but it just making it not making sense to, I guess... Yeah, I mean, a customer maybe would want to have different stuff when they're at one place or another, I think is kind of what you were saying. Okay.
Yeah.
So then it's interesting. So then the Solemn Oath's idea was to just make beers that only go out to bars. I think it's an interesting concept. I do think it's also an interesting conversation to spark. I mean, in all honesty. Also, for some reason, hard to concentrate when you're just like sitting there with your arms crossed with a Book of Mormon literally right in front of you. Just odd, a little insight into, the king's thought process.
Can I suggest that you give a kind of overview of the debate you guys have been having here over the past 6 months?
It's a great idea, yeah.
So explain what the issue or the problems are with the tap rooms versus traditional bars and taverns.
Sure. Yeah, and Michael Roper of the Hop Leaf has been very outspoken about this, and he's come on and talked about it here and some other places. And the general argument, or I guess just issue that some of these publicans have talked about, and Pat Berger has also come in here and talked about it quite a bit, is essentially that tap rooms are stealing craft beer bars' lunch. I think particularly hard, craft beer bars. It's people are now opening, breweries are opening up tap rooms that are more and more like full-fledged bars. I think Pat has kind of championed the idea that originally these were supposed to be kind of tasting rooms and marketing tools, and now they're revenue streams, and they're quite profitable and can be lucrative, and now they're kind of spreading like wildfire, and that it's getting back to what Michael Roper says. It's kind of some of this he feels is built on the backs of places like the Hop Leaf, having helped build these breweries up, so that they have a loyal following and people who are really bought into these places and want to go to their tap rooms. And Michael Roper has said a couple times that he'll go into some of these tap rooms and see his regulars there. Regulars who, maybe not, but presumably would be at his bar instead. And that he's seen a decline in the craft beer sales there, and he's had to rely more on food and wine and so on. And I think that's just kind of that's one part of it. The other part is the the limited releases that used to, I think really, especially in Chicago. Chicago is kind of known, I think because of Bourbon County, known for having bottle shops be the place of the release point for some of these highly sought after, very limited beers. That has kind of gone away. So when Dave and I opened up our bottle shops, that was some nice gravy on the bottom line. I wouldn't say that stuff necessarily kept the lights on, but it might have helped fund buying a new X, Y, and Z, or not expanding the whole place, but it was nice gravy to have these drops of, I don't know, whatever. We didn't get the barrel aged pipeworks. They waited till they had on premise and they just did it all there. But
That's not true.
no, I'm joking. We did get some.
That's a good example, though.
No, but we used to get a bunch, and now people aren't coming as often for those types of beers because they're often brewery exclusives. They're taproom exclusives, and it makes perfect sense on some levels why breweries would do that, because it's just more profitable for them to do it. It brings people in. They can control the release, and they can kind of do it on their terms and kind of present the beer the way they want it to be.
I think it's kind of important to note that Chicago and Illinois in general is behind the rest of the country in breweries being able to do that. So the fact that our releases had to go through bottle shops is something to be looked at when we're talking about what we're doing here.
Yeah.
So most other states, breweries were allowed to sell in ways that Illinois breweries were not.
Yeah, that's kind of something I was thinking about. Like, the law just wasn't there. We didn't even have the chance to do it.
Yeah.
Prior to very recently, where this is the norm in a lot of places and has been for a very long time.
Right, and that doesn't change the fact that it definitely changes Michael Roper's business or your business, and I'm not saying that those things haven't been affected by it, but it is more of a catching up point to the industry or the markets in other parts of the country.
Yeah, I mean, I think there were other I think California, a lot of that stuff always kind of got out to the bottle shops. I don't know. I mean, we could go back and look.
Well, California, you can have like 6 tap rooms, so I don't know
but
if
I
that's
think
the
stuff
place
is,
to look.
Generally, it has, I think, there has been a shift, even if it's more here than other places. I think overall there has been a shift. And, yeah, I guess maybe I should have been more clear when I said Chicago was kind of known as a place where these releases were done at bottle shops.
Well, particularly the Bourbon County one.
Yeah. But that does set the stage for a lot of stuff, what happens with that beer. So anyway, I don't want to rehash that whole thing, but that's kind of the base.
And also the background is that, the number of breweries have exploded by number in the U.S. over the past few years. You have a lot more breweries opening. Some of them have tap rooms. Some of them are brew pubs. Also in Chicago, you probably have a consumer has the widest access to beers from all over the planet available here, more so than any other major metropolitan area, I believe. So a lot of competition has come. Thousands of breweries are available. We'll say hundreds are available
Probably
in the
thousands.
Chicago, maybe thousands in Chicago market. You have a lot of local breweries popping up, all these regional breweries and all these small breweries coming in. And it created this atmosphere of major flooding of all these awesome beers from around the world in Chicago. And I would argue that the people who were the publicans then also were faced with this dilemma. Do we continue to support breweries like Solemn Oath or Half Acre or Pipeworks with a steady handle? Or Mars? Or do we just try every other beer that's available and give them to our consumers? So, Michael Roper might, or other people might blame the fact that these local breweries are opening up tap rooms for a change in consumer behavior. But I think the market itself is the reason why it's happening.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different reasons for it. We've gone through a bunch of these. I do think that the heavily rotating handle has almost made it, in some cases, a necessity for breweries to have places where they can just have their own standard set of their beer, because it's impossible to get steady handles, or much, much more difficult to get steady handles. Yeah. And I think that also the just proliferation of craft beer and how much there is has just led to kind of a culture of, Pokemon. You just want to try them all. You want to try as many as you can. You're always trying what's new. Something that is novel in some way is desirable in craft beer. And I think that it's all kind of, I don't know what caused what, but I do think that there is some elements of that. And I certainly don't think it's, a bunch of brewers who just wanted to do this and screw the
But you
the
could
retailers.
argue that a lot of these places like yourself, like Map Room, Hawley, probably feel they played a large role in building the brands that were local here. by supporting small guys like Mars and Pipeworks when we were first starting out, right?
I mean, there were...
And I think they're maybe misplacing this kind of confusion of this changing marketplace and kind of thinking and feeling some sort of resentment towards supporting these brands and maybe targeting the wrong thing.
Well, what becomes interesting is, like, if we talk about how we were behind in what breweries were allowed and how they were allowed to release beers, that we're going through a phase now where that is catching up. But it doesn't mean that a brewery should try to sell all their beer out of their tap room. If we're going to be realistic about it, it would be wonderful for breweries if tap rooms kept being so popular and kept getting more and more exciting to people. But is that really realistic to believe that tap room is always going to be the place people are going to go to consume your beer? I can't see anything that grew that fast being as sustainable as people want to think it is. So maintaining a healthy relationship with the places that have sold your beer and that will sell your beer after your tap room isn't as exciting to people is super important.
It's important. I mean, I'm curious. I definitely tend to agree with you with your opinion on that. I will say, as an aside, Dave, I know you're on Skype. It's kind of hard to read the body language. You just holler, whenever you have something you want to say.
Okay.
Yeah, but what I will say about so I've seen some breweries. I'll say Jerry Nelson from Unane and Hubbard's Cave, notable loser in the Pastry Boy Battle Royale. He
Why do you
said,
look
But
at me
he
when you
made
say
massive
that?
gains, though.
he did have massive gains. He did come up with a new subgenre of pastry stout, which is the protein pastry stout.
I like to call it the swole stout.
Yeah,
or the yolk
stout.
stout.
The yoked.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. That could be a whole different thing. It's like a
So
custard
anyway,
stout.
he told me,
Gross.
well, I don't think he'll mind me re-saying what he told me. When he opened his tap room, he said, there was certainly beers that he could have sold, but he absolutely had certain accounts that he was going to make sure, had beer because he wouldn't have gotten to where he was. Because he kind of, had some ups and downs and has talked about some of the struggles that he's gone through. And he said it was some of these accounts that literally kept him in business, and that he feels like he should not forget about them and remember it. And that he sees some breweries not doing that and kind of doing the opposite, and he just kind of shakes his head. And because there are breweries, Mike, who don't do what you're saying.
Oh,
there are
I'm
some
very aware
breweries
there are
who were
few.
at, did distribute, at least, here locally, and I'm sure other places as well. Tap rooms open, and then the market pretty much goes dry, except if you go to their tap room. And, it's excellent that they can sell all their beer at their tap room, good for them. And I think, there's an argument, Mike, to say, you're saying it's very important to keep those channels open. I would say that is maybe up for debate, because if it does slow down, I'll tell you why I think it's up for debate. Because if it does slow down, and then they go to the retailers again, they go to distribution again, self-distribution, whatever, and it only matters if the retailers say, no, now I don't want your beer because you withheld it before. And I personally am not confident that retailers will have a long enough memory to say no.
Sure, they probably won't. But you look at the health of those businesses financially and the margin that they're planning on making on beers when it slows down their tap room versus what they have to take when they venture out and try to sell it elsewhere is hugely different. If they're being smart and trying to financially project what their business is going to look like, and they don't have a robust distribution network that they maintain and they believe in, and that's part of how they are planning on growing or how they're planning on creating their revenue sources, it's going to be a lean time for them just because of the revenue hit taken because they didn't expect it.
Yeah.
They're going to spend money improperly. They're going to not be financially prepared for it.
So let's go now to this Schallau beer, which is called Taproom Exclusive. But before I go there, I have to mention, and not just because I was literally poked and told to do this, you're listening to WLPN LP, Chicago 105.5 FM. You're on Mike, and Lumpin' Radio.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Well, the first thing
No,
I want to say about this particular
voice is
thing is that
over the mic.
Sorry.
the fact that it's a tap room only beer is interesting to me, right?
What's the name of it?
I don't even, what is it called?
Tap room only?
Tap room exclusive.
Tap room
Tap room
only, but it
exclusive.
won't be sold at their tap room. It'll be sold in other tap
Right.
rooms.
So ironic. Oh my God.
It's an interesting twist, right?
Sparking debate.
We're well past modern, huh?
But for breweries like Solomouth and others a few years ago, the majority of their business was on draft. Many of these breweries that were around today were heavily dependent on their draft beer being sold in as
They were
many
like
retail.
90, they used to be like 90% draft.
Yeah, it's like it's all the OGs prior
Yeah.
to tap rooms.
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting that people are looking for ways of trying to be on a good side, have a good relationship with like a bar, et cetera. But even from the get go, I mean, any smart brewery is doing collaborations with bars and restaurants all the time. I don't even know how many we've done, Tim.
We've done numerous. I mean, a lot with arcades and restaurants, and it's partly because we like to hang out there, and it's with people that we love. But it's obviously also to have our beer in those places that we frequent.
Yeah. So I think that's what kind of
But it's not a new thing. This notion of making a collaboration for an on-premise thing, right?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, even before craft beer, I used to go. There was this place, that burger joint, like Boston Blackies or something like that, used to have Two Brothers beer. That was, I think, just like Prairie Path relabeled. But that used to be like an old thing where you'd have like a house beer that was just contracted for you.
And that's not. Those are typical things that breweries will do to maintain relationships with outlets, right?
Yeah.
Look at Pat Burger; he's making a beer every week.
Yeah, right.
Right?
But those beers, I think this
They're
one
all
is
He doesn't know how to sit
specifically,
still, though.
I
Only
think
lagers.
branded as not being poured at Solomouth. So I think maybe that's different. I don't know. What do you think about
Yeah,
it, Dave?
it's to encourage people to go outside of Solomouth's tap room and drink at other local establishments.
Do you think that this beer is going to entice people to do that, or do you think it's just the ideas that they're bringing up is doing that more so? Because to be perfectly honest, a rye stout with oats and lactose is not super exciting to me. It's not going to get me to go to Hopleaf for that beer. Maybe the idea of it, but what do you think is the goal of this? Just the thoughts of it, or the actual beer getting people out? Like what's going on?
I think that I don't think the style or a rye stout is necessarily a style in 2019 that's really going to draw people into Hawley for the beer cellar or Bavarian Lodge. But I think it is just to bring attention to that underlying issue and kind of, like you mentioned, Chris, that Pat Burger and Roper have been very vocal about this. I think it's to kind of start cutting that tension early before this becomes an issue, and to just show that there is still that camaraderie between tap rooms and breweries and slashies and corner bars.
Do you think the way to do it, do you think this is a good way to go about doing it, is by saying we're going to make beers only for the market? I don't want to put Solomouth on the spot saying that they did think this was the best way to do it. It might have just been, just a spark, create those little sparks. But do you think that this is kind of a model that you would see working, coming up with, anti-taproom exclusive beers?
I don't know if this is the right approach. It's the first approach that we're seeing, specifically here in the Chicagoland area.
It's the most visible one. I mean, there's
I don't know if I
plenty
agree
of
with that.
of
Yeah.
people, engaging with their retail outlets in a more interesting way to try to do this. It's the first one we've seen explicitly
Rev does
calling
a
it
very
out.
good job.
Explicitly, yeah.
Yeah.
I think Rev does a good job. I think the breweries, to me, and I was talking to you about this, Mike, and we had a little bit of a disagreement, and we kind of stopped talking about it so we could have
Save
it
it
on
for the
on
air,
air.
right?
Save it for the air. To me, I kind of to me it. I don't know if sacrifice is the right word, but that's the one I was using with you, Mike. It seems to me like if there's some level of sacrifice where a brewery could sell something all own premise, they allocate some to go to the market, to help build those relationships. So it's maybe just shifting. It's shifting maybe the immediate, higher margins that you get in the tap room for longer kind of distribution health, as you were saying, Mike. Is kind of where I would see that being. That's when I personally take note of it. I think Rev has done a pretty good job of it personally. I think Cafe Death and some of these barrel-aged beers certainly could, and they do exclusives for some of the variants, and I think they could sell them all, but they try to push stuff out to the market, and I think even to broader markets and stuff like that. That's what's just coming to mind.
Pollyanna's really good at doing that. We see Pollyanna release stuff at the tap room, but they also generally try to take care of accounts. And I think it helps with the distribution model, because not all of my customers are going to drive all the way down to the city and go to Rev's tap room, but they still want to try a tap room exclusive. And you're right on. Rev does a great job at making sure those hit the market. Personally, with the beer seller and their relationship with Pollyanna, same thing. Not all of my customers want to go to a tap room in Lamont, but they're going to come to the beer cellar and they want to try beers there.
To the point of is this the right beer? We've had conversations, and I've heard it on the show, and different concerns about breweries trading beers, exclusive beers and special beers for between their friends or to certain venues or whatever, and then other accounts not getting those. Something I think these releases are critical to getting this hype and excitement for this kind of concept. And I think a good example of maybe something that even wasn't as exciting as it should have been was the Cool Shit beer from Allagash, right? That was a 2-3 venue event in Chicago?
No, it was a little more than that, but yeah.
But very limited beer, very limited venues, and I don't know how the turnout was for all the
Not so
the
great,
venues,
but
so it's what is the right? Is this even that big of an issue? And what is the right beer to try to promote this? Because
I don't
think this.
I don't know if that's a
gonna do the
great
trick.
example, because Allagash is amazing, but
Absolutely.
there's still an out-of-town brewery. So Allagash coming to town and doing special events probably isn't going to create the same sort of fever that somebody in town might create, no matter what the beer they're bringing. Just because people know Allagash, they've been around forever, and we all know that Allagash is awesome. We all love Allagash, but we've all been in this for a while. Somebody who's going to get real psyched about some exclusive beer is probably not going to be super psyched about Allagash unless they've also been excited about Allagash for the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Well, how does Dovetail deal with this notion of having pretty exclusive beers that aren't available in the marketplace? Or when you release it, you select one bar over another, or brewery or tap room over another, bottle shop over another, release something really special that's tap room only?
We haven't done too much taproom only stuff, but we kind of did the same thing that Solarte is doing right now. We did a beer with Hop Leaf and with Pat Burger's bars. I can't remember if he put them on at both Kaiser and Patty Long's, or if it was just Patty Long's. But in any case, we were kind of doing a shout out to Hop Leaf and Patty Long's for supporting us since day one, and so we let Michael and Pat come by and taste some barrels and make their own little blend, and that was our taproom exclusive that they had.
Yeah. That's
so basically,
really cool.
This is just a branded version of something you guys did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's different.
That was a bad joke.
I think what we're all talking about, and no one's saying explicitly, is that breweries right now have a lot of cachet, or something I've heard Ed say many times, cultural capital. And what we're talking about is how do we transfer the cultural capital from where people are paying attention at breweries now to accounts that we all care about and love and want to see be healthy businesses. Now, there are probably hundreds of ways to do it, and just trying to figure out, we're in the very early stages in this market of figuring out how do we actually do that, what actually will get consumer to pay attention to us, accounts and that we sell beer to, that we want them to be paying attention to, and staying within the legal guidelines of not supplying something of excessive value to any specific account. So there are things that tie breweries' hands that we can't just, do. We can't do certain things that would, be too valuable or no one's ever been
Pay to play. You're talking about
Yeah, it's not like so. If you were to say we're only going to sell this beer here, then that's a little dicey for when we actually that when the ILCC starts looking at what we're doing, and so finding a balance between those things is we're infants at this still. So there's going to be rocky times. We're going to figure out a way to do it, but.
We've never had an exclusive taproom only beer. I think we were making a joke about Chug Life being a taproom exclusive at one time. But we depend on all the retailers and outlets everywhere to sell our beer, more so than our taproom. Our taproom is a place where we can kind of like have finally for once a place where you can come and check out who we are in the real world, right? As opposed to just checking us out virtually. And it's important to us. But without the retailers and the bars and restaurants serving our beer, we would have no brewery. There's no Mars Brewery. We have to sell our beer to the marketplace. We don't have any exclusive beers that are not sold to the marketplace. But, I can understand if you're a really small kind of brew pub or a small, a 5-barrel system or something that's you want to sell that beer on premise so you could survive. And I don't really know so this whole argument to me is bizarre because our family operated Maria's, for example, right? I was part of Maria's when we changed it when my mom let us change the place. And we worked really hard on our draft list. We worked really hard on making sure we had the best beer we could possibly get. There's thousands of beers to choose from. You should not make your decision on what you're serving at your bar or restaurant now based on the deal you're getting from a distributor. If you just are looking for the cheapest beer you could sell for maximum product, that might be a bad business model for you. It's a changing landscape. You have to work harder for every single buck. We work really hard to get a beer on draft somewhere. We work really hard to put a beer in your cooler. The bottle shops, bars, taverns, restaurants should work harder in making sure that they can make their clientele, their customer bases happy. You have a lot more to offer than just our beer.
Which brings up a good point about this beer is it I don't know. I'm just using this taproom exclusive beer because that's what kind of sparked the conversation, so to speak.
Oh.
But But I will say whether it gets people to go to the Hop Leaf who normally wouldn't go to the Hop Leaf or Bavarian Lodge, and I don't know how much Salamoth is featured at either of those places. It certainly got him a beer in 2 really big accounts. So, it might be a good way to get on at an account if they're going to put you on if for this kind of exclusive collaboration beer and stuff like that. So it is a good way, I think, to build a relationship with places that way, and maybe they'll put more other Salamoth beers on as well. So I think maybe it kind of goes both ways. I mean, and that would only be beneficial if it's mutually beneficial. But I mean, I don't want to be take a uber cynical.
Great beer sells great beer, but what really most of what this is personal relationships too, and whether or not you know or get along or understand the people you're buying or selling to. Those have always been the most robust relationships for us, at least. So. I mean, if that works for them in this way, then that way, then that's great. But I don't know.
I mean, brewers depend on you guys more than ever before to help hand sell their products, select it, promote it, put it on your draft list. We rely on you, Dave, to say, "Hey, the new Mars Crack is out. It's over there," And I don't understand this argument. It's just I want to know which breweries are dogging the retailers. I would love to know where this argument's coming from.
I don't think it's breweries are dogging the retailers necessarily. It's just that
it's a consumer thing.
The consumers are choosing to go somewhere else.
Where are these exclusive taproom beers being sold? What breweries are we talking about here? Where you can't get the beer outside of their own place? Because I don't know of any.
You don't know of any? I mean, there's many tap rooms where you can only get. I mean, they did a one-off and they don't talk about it.
Well, so there's a bunch of different business models you can run too, if it's a brewery that's only going to make a couple hundred barrels a year and they're technically licensed as a brewery and they used to distribute, and now they're going to make 300 barrels a year and they're going to sell it out of their tap room. That's just a brew pub. That's just a brew pub that doesn't make food. That's a totally different business than what Pipeworks is trying to operate and what Mars is trying to operate, and they have every right to do that. And so they don't need to try to have relationships with that if they're planning on getting bigger than that outside of like, or if they're banking on we're going to have a line every weekend and we're going to sell out of everything, get all of our inventory through, and then I find these to be precarious business models to bank on. So they can all exist, but I don't know where I'm going with this.
Well, are those necessarily the ones that are taking away business from the beer bars? The ones that are like selling out cases and cases of bottle. Like I don't know if they're really factored in there.
Places like Hopleaf, I'd say so. I mean, I would think. I mean, I don't know, Dave. How far are you? The two that I know of, I haven't been to either of these because they're out in the suburbs. I never go there. But I always think of Microphone and More as just selling out everything all the time, always a line. It's crazy. I don't know if you're near either of those places, Dave, but do you think that, I know people who shop at the Beer Temple say, I'm going out to Microphone now to go to this release.
Well, that's another facet of it altogether. Like that's not taking away business from a place like Hopleaf. That's taking away business from a place like Beer Temple.
Or it could be both. I mean, if they sit and have a beer there, I mean, I don't know. If they're going somewhere, it could be. I think it could easily be either. I mean, you're saying that's just a off-premise thing, not an on-premise. Yeah. What's your feeling, Dave? You've got a on and an off.
Yeah, I have an on and off, and I mean, I love Mike at Microphone, and we have a great relationship. We'll be in Fort Lauderdale together this weekend, but yeah, that was one that.
Wait, vacationing together or?
We're going to be at Three Sons Brewery together.
Oh, yeah.
For their opening and doing their first event.
There's a collab beer you guys are doing.
There is not a collab beer we are doing. Shocking. No, yeah, this is my wife and I's vacation that we just happen to be there at the same time. But Mike and I will be there. We're friends. We have a great relationship. But that's one. And Chris, you can speak to this too. But you and I were some of the first adopters of Microphone. We got every single beer that he ever released, and we sold the crap out of it, and we promoted the business, and we loved it. And then when the tap room opened, we definitely see less of it. So that's, yeah, I don't have a relationship with More outside of just knowing them because they're about 15 minutes away, and
yeah,
they're starting to slowly trickle out a couple kegs here and there. But yeah, I mean, that's my take with that is we used to get a lot of beer. We used to sell a lot of beer, and now we get some stuff sprinkled in here and there. And I think that's what kind of sparked this. Again, I can't speak for Roper or Burger, but that's my experience out in the suburbs.
May I ask Dave and Chris, do you feel any sort of like resentment or reticence to carry those brands because of the way they've been going to market? Or do you think that's how they're going to be? Like, how do you guys feel as retailers when a brewery chooses that path?
I think initially I was just taken off guard. But as Mike and I had more conversations, I mean, that's the thing is we're all friends. We have to have conversations and talk through these things. Otherwise you can let tempers boil and get upset about things. I think it upset me at first, and then I realized, hey, he's doing his thing, and he still sends me stuff every now and then. And because we're 20 minutes apart, so my customers do go to his tap room for releases.
Right.
So I don't think those customers would be coming. If we both had releases, they might come to me, but otherwise I think they're probably just going to go there.
What about you, Chris? Has your desire to purchase those beers been affected by the way they've chosen to?
Generally, would that be affected? Would that be something that I would take into consideration? Yeah, I'd take it into consideration. I'm not saying I would or wouldn't buy something. I'd have to wait until it was offered and see what's going on. But yeah, absolutely. And that even happens now with some of these breweries. If there's a beer that I feel is obviously something that a taproom, a heavy brewery couldn't move all through their brewery, so then it's like a release valve. It's like when they can't sell everything the way they want to, which is own premise, then they send it out to distribution. I
Yes.
have in the past told guys to buy very light or not at all. You know, 'cause that's
I know
my
that.
only, that's my
I know
pushback.
that. I can verify that with Chris. Every week he just keeps saying he's not buying any Mars beer.
Yeah.
Hates the
Until-
haze.
He tells me that
Hates
too.
the
That's
haze.
Yeah.
so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's
Me,
that's
not
right,
buying
Chris.
one.
There may have been a time where I might have taken 10 or 15 cases of something, but if it's going to be at a tap room for 2 weeks and then offered to me, then maybe I only take 1 or 2 cases because my customers have had a week or two to get to the tap room,
Yeah.
buy it, and
I mean, let's just agree that it's really nuts out there right now. There's so much product out
So
there.
much.
Right?
So much great
Being
beer.
a publican, being a tap room, being a restaurant is really hard. I have a good example of someone, I won't name who they are, but they mentioned, we spent 2 years trying to open up this bar. We thought if we had XYZ brewery beers on tap and a couple other beers on tap that we would kick some butt and everything would be great. But no. That particular XYZ brewery lost its kind of like cultural capital or value, or didn't have a monopoly on the marketplace of what was the best beer anymore. They were challenged by a million other breweries, and they have to work very hard in ways they never thought of, which is like producing events, coming up with concepts, constantly reminding consumer to come by for whatever reason, over and over and over again. And everyone has to do that.
Yeah, bars,
everybody.
tap rooms, everybody.
Short attention spans.
Yeah.
Yes.
One thing I will say, getting back to what Dave had mentioned, I think there's definitely the logical. This beer has been out for a couple weeks, and a good portion of my customer base who would have been interested in this beer likely already has it, and unless they want to happen to buy another 6-pack, 4-pack bottle of it, whatever, it's going to have to be people who are just kind of buying it on a whim or didn't make it out to the brewery in the past 2 weeks because presumably it's also still on sale there. We have talked about this at our shop as being a way that we can, in our own way, kind of push our values and what's important to us as well, and that is, we want to be considered. We don't want to just be a release valve. We want to be, considered a true retail partner, and we'll partner with you, but we want to feel like we're a partner and, kind of respected. And I guess, if when there is extra beer, the fact that we are asked, I'm sure not every place is asked. So,
Right.
So, it is, it's a sliding scale. But to us, we say, you know what? We're kind of, we'll take one or none or something like that. And just, hopefully people will learn like, oh, well, Beer Temple doesn't want, when we can't sell it all and we're going to try to get rid of it. Which, again, I'm using intentionally harsh language here. That's not something that we're particularly interested in compared to other breweries who maybe were thinking about us at the time of release. Because now there's just so much room. There's only so much room. There's only so many breweries that you can focus on. Even the hot breweries. There's a lot of them now. And you kind of have to, put your purchasing power behind certain brands, and if you want to do it behind the guys who are, you feel are aligned with kind of your vision and goals, then you kind of stand by them, and that's kind of how you do it.
I think you're a unique tap room though too, Chris. You have this very, what is it, 20 taps? Pretty limited. It's not huge, but you have a very limited list. It's very selective. It's always unique, and I think that doesn't always exist on average. And it's harder, I think, for the consumer now to go to a place and feel like they're always going to have something in a tap room like that where the list is exceptional. There's things from around the country that are very small batch. You have access to that because of the history of your store and yada, yada, whatever. You have a huge history of buying power, I think. But also there's just, I think places are a little more negligent with how they're operating their beer program. I went to a place that had a few dozen tap lines that's a known beer bar here, and it was the middle, well into winter, and they had one dark beer. Didn't have a porter, didn't have anything. So at that moment, what's going on there, who knows? there's just little things like that sometimes that's just, you walk in, you look at the list and you look at the prices and you just kind of wonder like what's going on here. I think there's plenty of that. I think blaming this new thing, like we've discussed, it's all new to Illinois, but it's not new anywhere else. I think there's other reasons that are more obvious to me, at least as
Other
a
reasons
different
for
consumer.
what? Other reasons.
For people not wanting to go to certain establishments that, may or may not. I'm not talking about places like the Hop Leaf, but there's plenty of places I think that are slacking one way or another managing their beer program. We've all seen, as a producer, I've seen plenty of places buy a keg that needs to be tapped fresh from us. Gets tapped a month or two later, 3 months later, even longer, and that's frustrating as a producer, but whose fault is that at this venue? That's a complicated thing, but I think there's a lot of reasons why places are not excelling.
As a producer, do you stop selling them beer when you see that kind of behavior on a reoccurring basis?
Generally, no. I mean, you have to assume that that's probably something happened there. Maybe they were transitioning between beer buyers, bar managers changed, who knows? But I think, there's a million reasons why that could be the problem at that specific place. But, we'll continue to work with places that work with us.
Right.
Why don't we take a short break? Is there anything else people want to say?
I'm glazing over, man. I don't know what's going on anymore.
Pastry.
Where are we? This pastry stout I've been
Glazed
sucking
donut,
on.
man.
I got diabetes.
Well, let's go crack a pastry stout. Let's take like a short,
Who brought the
5-minute
bananas?
break or so, Serge, and then come back with more.
I'm
of
a
the
big cat off the chain.
We'll get out our French presses.
Yeah.
I'm a liberty. I'm a winner, I'm a champ. I'm that low hypnotic pimp. Call me dopamine. Dopamine.
DJ Serge bringing the funk. Musical break. Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. We really got to get Tim Zawada to do our break. You got to set that up, Ed.
I'll talk to some people.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Beer
Star
Temple
Creature
Insiders.
vibes.
Yeah, totally. So I need some vibes.
It talks, kind of side-handed diss to Serge, though.
Yeah.
It's been a very anti
Beer Temple Insiders
show
Roundtable.
today. I don't
Serge
feel
is with
good
me.
about it.
He likes it.
He doesn't seem
Mike,
to like it that
Mike
much.
Strong, Tim Lange, EdMar Zuski, Shana Solarte, and Dave Hawley are my guests.
Serge,
And-
you're doing an adequate job. I just want to say that.
Yeah, Serge is doing an adequate job. I agree.
Yeah.
Way to go, Serge.
For now.
Somebody
I
get
just
that guy
know
a beer.
he's about to screw up, so I have to, in my mind, I already know, and I'm already upset about it.
Yeah, get him a beer now and you can
I
blame
just want
that
to do
later.
like a news alert. A news alert just came into my feed, my social media feed. PK is shirtless right
That's
now.
really news.
What about this is an alert?
And he's just talking while naked on his Facebook Live feed right now. So
stop listening to this.
turn
Go
off to
on
this.
PK.
Get off of the Lumpen Radio. Tune it out. Check out his feed.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Marzuski, to continue with the show, let me know.
Okay, that's not.
Okay, he's showing how to make a cocktail while he's naked.
Okay, that's not.
Okay. Turn it
Sorry
off.
about that. That
Turn
was
it
a
off.
very important news break.
No, it wasn't, but it was indicative of,
There's literally
My-
nothing insider
My
about that.
Short attention span.
yeah.
That's
So,
a public feed.
Let's keep talking about tap rooms.
value
So there was
system,
some other
maybe.
stuff. There was a lot of tap room news. And to me, it's been surprising. To me, it's like this kind of feast and famine thing for a lot of breweries. It seems to be, we were just talking about how on premise is this huge thing, and how it's taking business from Michael Roper. It's taking food out of his children's mouths. If he had children, it would be taking food from their mouths, and But then meanwhile,
Doesn't he have a
Widmer, does he have children? I don't
He
know.
has a restaurant, right?
Yeah, Widmer closes.
Food.
Widmer closes. 22 years.
Legendary brewery.
In Portland, right? So it's
a multifaceted landscape right now.
that's a big craft beer market, and it's one of the old guards. And you would think they were big enough to maybe even just keep it around, even as like a marketing piece. if it were somewhat profitable, but they got rid of their kitchen, I guess, a little while ago, and now they're saying revenue challenges, and they're closing their tap room after 22 years. So that was the bust, the craft beer bust that happened in the 90s. They kind of made it through that.
Do they allow guest taps?
Well, they probably should. Collaborations.
Well, I mean,
they probably can't pour their collaborations with other breweries. I bet you that's what it was. You're right.
That's why I
Yeah.
went out.
But then also Almanac was said that they're closing one of their locations. But then meanwhile, Golden Road has announced they're opening yet another tap room, and Ballast Point's open in Disneyland. And
Almanac closed not because they, if they're in San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
And rent leases are extraordinarily high there. And in fact, a lot of California producers, it costs them a lot to make their beer. I mean, Stone, all those breweries have pretty high keg prices, right? So, businesses in San Francisco can afford the $200 keg or whatever. But Almanac actually moved into a new, larger facility and just closed down their old place. And they have a much larger facility in which they have a new tasting room.
Okay, so they just transitioned.
They transitioned, yeah.
Okay, so don't be worried about it.
And I think I heard that the Golden Road canceled their new brewery. That they were planning on making that brewery, and it was canceled. Dave, is that right? Do you know?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you talking
I
about the
don't
one
sell
that they were
Golden Road,
they were
so-
trying to do in Oakland?
Yeah, they decided not to do the one in Oakland.
Yeah.
That's correct.
They got like crazy opposition from the locals.
But isn't this one in Anaheim?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
this
one-
is a while ago.
Anaheim,
But yeah.
though.
All right, my fault.
But the new one's in Anaheim.
Yeah, the
That's
one
new
from
news for
like
me.
a year and a half ago. Yeah, that one you're
Well,
right
well,
on with
for
that
something
one.
like Golden Road, the tap rooms are showpieces. They're like why people have storefronts on
Yeah, they're
Michigan
brand
Avenue.
experiences,
It's
yeah.
like it's not because they're making a bunch of money there.
Right, it's
because,
like the Golden Road pub across the street from where the A's play.
Right.
Like-
Like ABI.
Not
is
the
gonna-
A's,
they're-
Angels.
Yeah, whatever. We got it.
I've been there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But it's like so that like ABI needs these like tentpole places as branding. They're not like culturally relevant, but they're for brand more than they are for like the revenue generation that they're going to make. At least that's what I assume. Yeah, the Widmer one is really interesting. They're owned by like Craft Brewers Alliance, right? And so
yeah.
that's no longer like a super culturally relevant place in Portland, and they've been outpaced by a lot of smaller and younger meaning like Allagash, like I don't know, they just didn't keep up with the times in that place, which is kind of wild. So
Yeah.
and if it's purely a revenue play, that's kind of interesting from that perspective. But I don't know how they're not. They must just be no one going there if they can't figure out it.
Must be nobody. And, there have been rumors that Craft Brew Alliance is, I think Fernari, that was one of his predictions for 2019, was that it would sell. Maybe I totally made that up.
Aren't they
but
already
I-
like 30% owned by?
Yeah, but
ABI
they
or
also
something?
have, if you've read Josh Noel's book, I think there was some
I bought it.
kind of animosity, and I think that in some ways
Wait,
there
Josh Noel's
was
a
some
book?
lamentation of the
Who?
fact that they were partially owned by them, and it was frustrating at times and stuff like that. And some of the Craft Brewers Alliance people were kind of the most upset at the full purchase.
Gotcha.
But anyway,
Well, even like the industry itself, the Brewers Association puts out a publication called The New Brewer. And even in like the main mouthpiece for our industry, they have their entire theme issue is the tap rooms issue, right? And they're selling to all the breweries out there in the biz, the ones that are opening, like, hey guys, make sure you open that tap room. It's really important for you to have that tap room.
which
that
on
on-premise.
this show, a couple years ago, we were saying that's what you got to do. You open up a place, you got to have a tap room these days.
Yeah, we've all been saying it. And now the Brewers Association, a couple years later, is caught up and explains how to create that experience for your customers in your tap room and how important it is to differentiate yourself, et cetera, et cetera. But this is the long tail of our craft beer industry right now, right? The tap rooms, the majority of them are making between a couple hundred to a couple thousand breweries. Those are where we find growth in this industry at this point. So it's the norm. The tap rooms are the norm. The tap rooms are basically just going to be the way you experience craft beer on the at least for the foreseeable future. These new breweries will all have tap rooms.
In Portland, it's probably a similarly competitive market to Chicago, I would guess. As far as like either square mileage or population or whatever, I think they have a huge number of tap rooms per capita.
Local, yeah, but I think
Yeah.
with our distribution, we could easily be just as competitive as Portland here. But yeah, I'm sure that it's highly competitive there. Yeah. But could you imagine Goose Island? I mean, not that Widmer is anywhere near Goose Island, but it's crazy. Golden Road operates tap rooms, by the way, in Anaheim, Los Angeles, and Sacramento, as well as location at the LAX, and they're opening one in Huntington Beach. So, they're just
it makes
growing.
Makes absolute sense.
Talk of the long tail. Mm-hmm. I think the front end, the mouth of the snake, is also growing and trying to look like it's the tail, but it's really the mouth. I mean, if you have 5 Golden Road tap rooms, talk about that's another bar, that's another hop leaf, or another microphone tap room that somebody isn't
or compete with,
which is that's what Anheuser-Busch is supposed to do. They're supposed to sell beer. They're not supposed to sell beer, but not craft beer. They're just supposed to sell it, and if they sell it more efficiently by not letting you know that it's Anheuser-Busch because you won't like it, then they shouldn't let you. Then they won't let you know. But
right on that, they're selling not only beer but the experience. They're selling you the Golden Road experience at all 5 locations, and likewise with every other AB-owned craft spot. It's the same experience everywhere you go.
Yeah, I mean, look at that Ballast Point tap room in Chicago. I'm talking to someone who has had very good information about what they're paying in rent, and knowing that there is no way that is a profitable location. Like their rent
probably
is
in
insane.
one of the highest rent
it's
neighborhoods
crazy.
in the entire
Right,
city.
like
Crazy, and they have so
mind-boggling
much
high.
space.
But still, like they wanted to be in the Chicago market. They wanted to have like a presence here. Like that's like one of those like retail outlets that's not going to make them any money, but it's going to make people feel like, oh, Ballast Point, sure, I went to there.
Right,
after.
like the Gap in
I tried all
Midtown
85
Manhattan,
beers.
at Times Square.
Yeah, right. That's it's like
It's an
insane.
85 beer flight at Ballast Point. I had a great time.
Right. I remember every minute of it.
We were on the rooftop. Did they have a rooftop? I don't know.
Right. Well, we got on the roof. But it's going to be interesting to see like how those things go forward, and if are those things still going to be valuable for companies that are owned by Constellation or ABI, or are they just going to go the Widmer way, where we're losing so much money on this thing that it's not worth having the physical presence anymore.
I don't know. I think it's just part of their marketing budget overall. I mean, they're buying stadium placement, they're buying commercials, they're Super Bowl commercials. It basically costs as much as opening up a tap room anywhere in America. They could just kill and just spend a ton of money for this. I mean, Goose Island's opening up their own tap rooms all over the planet to extend that brand.
Yeah, literally all over.
I mean, that's the future. I mean, they're doing the same thing as craft brewers are doing all over the place.
Do you think, hey, Dave, do you think that the proliferation of tap rooms in general is going to water down the experience at all, or do you think that this is just going to be the new normal for a while, that if you like craft beer, you go to tap rooms, which I think is definitely what it is like now. I mean, when I visit other cities, I am going to a lot of tap rooms, probably more than I am beer bars.
That's just like an iconic beer
Same.
bar.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it's like your neighborhood with the bars. Every tap room's going to be a little bit different, and they have their own little vibe and their own feel. And it's just the same as your 5 neighborhood bars. They all have their different niches and whatnot. So, yeah, I think with taproom culture, you do have a little bit different variety. I'm with you. I love going to different tap rooms, but when I'm at the tap rooms, I love asking them, "Hey, where do you go drink when you're not here?" And then I like to follow up and go to those places and try other beer.
Mm-hmm. Which is funny. I mean, it is maybe they don't go to beer bars, but they still go to bars, and it's funny that you should say that, because I've done that too. And thinking back,
Always.
they usually don't say another tap room. They usually say a bar.
Well, I'm
Correct.
thinking as like from my perspective as somebody who works in a tap room, I get asked that question all the time, and I send people to Hopleaf. I send people to Long Room. I send people to the only other tap room I tend to send people to is Beguile because it's right next door, or Half Acre
Yeah.
because it's walking
Yeah.
it's walkable. And
I send
also
people
the
to
food.
Dovetail all the time, so good to know it's not reciprocated. So thank you.
You're too far away.
Thank you. Well, not
We do
for
the
me
same
to-
thing when people come in and they're from out of town and they're like, "Oh, what brewery's cool that's nearby?" It's like, okay, go to Solomouth, go to Noon Whistle. Like these are great places.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess it is kind of. It's interesting. I think the beer tourist, the out of towner now, there has definitely been a shift here in Chicago that they want to go to tap rooms now. Yeah.
What was there really a beer tourist coming, and was that even a category of person before tap rooms were a thing? Like,
That's a great
Yeah.
point.
I don't think that's even
Like
people
the
weren't no one's
beer
coming
tourist.
to Chicago to go to Hopleaf or Map Room,
Right.
Or to I'm not saying those aren't great places, but that's not a
Well,
beer tourist.
That's not
Actually,
entirely.
That's where they went before
that's not
tap
true.
rooms were a
That's
thing.
not true, and I think
No,
Dave
but-
and I can
yeah,
definitely.
I mean, the
But
reality.
that is absolutely not
that
true.
category of person has definitely expanded because breweries have tap rooms and because you can go to the brewery. And if you say I cannot think it's possible to think differently,
It was like tourist subcategory beer nerd.
right?
It wasn't beer tourist.
Right, and it was because they read some sort of like top
Chicago's a
100
great
bars.
city to go,
Yeah.
and they've got
Draft
good bars.
magazine,
Yeah.
all about
Like,
beer.
So that person,
TV
the
shows,
person traveling
New
to
York
spend money
Times.
on beer, that person is now coming to Chicago more because there are tap rooms and is more likely to go to Hopleaf or Map Room or Beer Temple because of that. So
Yeah.
I
And when I've
Wait,
been
what's Beer Temple?
it's like have you heard about the Book of Mormon?
It's funny. I mean, in different
anti-beer
countries, I think it
temple.
depends. In Belgium, I tend to probably do 50-50 bars and breweries. In England, I think I probably do bars more than breweries.
it's where,
Well, that's
where
the culture.
but in the
it's-
U.S.,
right.
I go to breweries.
It's where
That's
the
the
culture, is
culture, yeah.
vibrant, or where it's perceived as vibrant currently. And in America right now, it's breweries is where it's perceived as vibrant. But that's what we were talking about earlier. How do we get that into the bars as well?
That's
I
a
guess
really
have
good
better
point,
bars,
though. When
I
you
guess.
talk about like where the culture is vibrant, when you think about like English pub culture, that's been in place for hundreds of years.
Right.
So it's not going to be unseated by tap rooms anytime soon. Whereas we haven't had that culture in bars because we haven't had bars for even 100 years at this point. Prohibition is not even 100 years ago yet.
Hey, it's speakeasies.
Well,
I mean, they did.
right, but it's like it's real easy to unseat that because it doesn't have that sort of stronghold in the community and in the culture like pub culture in the UK
Yeah, or Germany.
or anywhere,
Yeah.
literally anywhere, anywhere that appreciated drinking,
But also
unlike
those,
us.
those places tend to have entirely different types of bars, if I'm not mistaken, where they don't serve. They're not a bunch of rotating handles. They don't have a bunch of like
The old Tight House.
Yeah, it's like you go there to drink maybe a few different beers, but it's more the
Well,
case
even
and the
today,
exception. Yeah,
even today, you go to London, you're in a Samuel Smith's pub.
right.
They've got 8 beers. They're all Samuel Smiths.
Yeah, it's
That's
just
it is what
Oh,
it is.
that's like super tied house.
Yeah,
I mean, for
and
a
that's-
big beer country, they are
Right.
super tied house.
It's everywhere, and it's not unusual, and it's not nobody feels weird about it. It's just it is what it is.
Well, I'm open to semi-tied house. All above
bring back
board,
the
I
tied
promise.
house.
Beer Temple's going to
As
turn
long
into
as you guys give me those true tap rooms.
But this is also another
You
interesting
know what
point
I mean?
where
The
if
real
we were
one.
allowed to have tied houses in America, then there wouldn't be craft beer. Like so,
right. That's why it proliferated.
The culture is entirely different, and it's going to be entirely different unless if we could have tied houses, we're all going away. Like
Right. There wouldn't have been the innovation and exploration and explosion of craft beer if you couldn't get
Jimmy
your
Carter
beer in
wasn't
anywhere.
president.
Or pastry kings.
So do you
Also
think
that,
so
yeah,
Pinot
no
Beer
pastry
is the
kings.
purest form
Ray
of craft
Daniels of
Who?
the Cicerone, said on here a while back that he saw brewery models going the way of like wineries out in California or on the West Coast in general, where it's just a lot of small there's a lot of small breweries who are getting, own premise, essentially the own premise model. Do you see
exactly what's
it
happening.
going? Do you see it going that way, like you see out in California, where it really is where you go to get these wines? You mean you might be able to find some of them somewhere, but really, if you want these wines or these beers, you have to go there. You have to get on their list. You have to. Is that how these little guys are going to be surviving? I mean, wine is so much different. It's so much more agricultural.
I feel like it's a fundamental diffence in how it's packaged
Right. I also
and how it's served.
And its shelf life. And I also think that beer has essentially, consumers rejected like super high pricing. No one's really tried it since.
Have you bought a 4-pack at Trillium before?
That's
Absolutely not.
But that's not crazy high compared to Screaming Eagle
$1,000,
So to be one of the we talk a lot about on this podcast about do you always need to grow? Well, you need not necessarily, but you need to continue to make more and more revenue if you want to keep hiring people or keep giving your employees raises, or unless you're going to be a single person doing all this out in sprints. So beer, I don't think will ever go that extreme because there is just not the perceived value in the product. No one's ever going to pay $1,000 straight from the brewery. At least I don't think so. Things are getting crazy in Iowa. Who knows?
I was going to say they're not doing that at Toppling Goliath.
Right. Well, they're paying hundreds of dollars, but that's still
hundreds of dollars.
But that's still
different
orders of magnitude different.
Yes, absolutely.
But they can also just make more.
Can they though? Can they? Can they
Yes.
make more Kentucky Brunch Stout and charge $100 a 12-ounce bottle?
Well, no, those are two different
Supply and
questions.
demand.
Well, that is the question. So if these small breweries are going to go that way, can they just make more and retain the value? Because the problem that perceived value
I'm
is in the
agreeing with you.
exclusivity of it.
What I'm
so
saying
they
is
can't just make more.
Screaming Eagle is if it's going to be from this vineyard can only produce so much fruit in a given year. They can only make this much, which is not the case. It is like you are throttling how much you can do to keep your artificially.
But so the perception of Screaming Eagle is that it comes from this only plot. And is this plot actually the best plot in California?
I don't know Screaming Eagle, but there are wines that are like single vineyard.
But it all, yes, sure. But does that mean that wine is better than the other? No, it means there's less of it and it's more valuable to people. It's the same thing as we only make 1,000 bottles of this. It's not because the grapes were grown in a certain spot or we only put it in these types of barrels. It's the same
scarcity marketing.
Yeah. And so you can't just make more scarcity. It's it doesn't exist. So if your model is to be like one of those small wineries, then it's harder because you do not have the premium pricing available. I don't know. That's just what I see of that.
I think we can look at Hill Farmstead and Side Project for that. They've pretty much built their breweries on that kind of model with very little to no distribution, with a little bit higher on-site bottle prices. And,
there's a handful.
There's a handful. That's right. Yeah.
There's a handful. Yeah, and there's not many. Hill Farmstead, I would put Tired Hands there. They
sell a lot on premise.
Trillium, Treehouse.
Sure.
Different models, but the same outcome where people are going there. They're selling a lot of beer only out the front door. There will always be a few of those, but I think overall they are the exception that kind of proves the rule. Everyone wants to be Hill Farmstead.
Right.
Good luck. And it's not just and I'm not saying good luck making a farmhouse beer as good as Hill Farmstead. My point is everyone wants to be that sought after. They want their beer to be that coveted, whether they're making, pastry boy stouts or lagers or whatever, and just good luck because there's only going to be so many of them.
Especially at this point, if you're opening a brewery now and you're hoping to have that type of attention placed on you, it's insane. It's never going to happen. If the Rate Beer Top 100 came out again, and there's maybe 2 breweries that have opened since 2014 that are on that. How is it possible that there's been thousands and thousands of breweries that have opened in the world and only maybe a handful only made in the top 100? Is that possible? No, it's just like
No.
the perception of these things
Yeah.
is built on esteem and previous performance, which as it should be in a way. But who's making the best beer? Also, there's no German lager breweries on that list either. But this is now maybe just quibbling with the top 100 list, which has been very nice to us, and we were on it again. So we're the best breweries ever. So.
How does it feel to be chosen by an AB InBev-backed entity?
Honestly, it still feels pretty
all
good.
you guys.
Like,
I mean, you too, Chris.
Any
Does it feel good?
Yeah, I
any
don't think
recognition.
You like it when the
officially-
Borg,
we haven't
the
officially
Borg
announced it, I don't
recognizes
think.
you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
You guys like that?
Yeah, I haven't
Yeah,
actually
actually, it does.
officially
Yeah.
uh,
Makes
us
made
much
an
more
announcement
valuable to
about
them
that.
when we
I
eventually-
mean,
I probably should.
As a representative of Dovetail Brewery, I feel like it's safe to say only Judy can judge me.
That's right, baby.
I don't know what that means.
I'm still waiting for Judge Judy's beer list. That's what I'm saying. Got it.
That'll
Cool.
be-
Room full of dudes.
That'll
Get
be
it.
that'll be the most important beer list of the century. If we can get that.
Judge
If
Judy.
she drinks beer,
Yeah.
that'd be
Absolutely.
great.
She'd have to. I only would listen to what she had to say if she did it in bottle caps.
Nice.
I only listen to ratings in bottle caps now.
Yeah.
I don't
That's fair.
Where's
don't
the
listen to
Untapped
you.
top 100
That's fair.
breweries?
exactly.
Why doesn't it exist? Does it exist? I don't even know.
I'm sure it does.
Well,
Well-
you're listening to 105.5 FM WLPN-LP Chicago.
Sound a lot
Available
like Reuben
for
Kincaid.
listening on lumpenradio.com and over the airwaves from Oak Park to Canaryville to Avondale to the shores of Lake Michigan.
So let's round this out with if there's any final parting words that you guys wanted to say. Any final statements? Ed, is there anything you'd like to say in closing? Anything you want to announce?
No. I wanted to, Chris, but I'm afraid to do that right now.
What?
Do you want me to make
Yes.
this announcement now?
Making the announcement.
Well, folks, after having this long discussion over the past few months about tap rooms, we decided that we're going to try to open up another tap room on the north side of Chicago,
Closer to Chris's spot.
closer as close as we can get to Chris Quinn's.
It's actually
the beer
in
temple.
the old beer temple spot.
Yeah, it's right across the alley, and we'll be serving Mars beer and a bunch of other taps, all guest taps.
A lot of guest taps.
All guest taps.
Really,
And
really
how
fresh
many
Sierra
taps
Nevada
do you
Pale
have
Ale.
on draft?
We have 20. Yeah.
We're gonna have 21 taps on draft.
Wow.
Next to Chris's place.
All Sierra
But yeah,
Nevada Pale
we're
Ale.
working on a new project on the north side, and we're very excited about bringing our beer to the north side.
Is this exclusive, Ed?
I guess so. I guess it is right now on this
Exclusive.
media channel here, Lumpen Radio, on the Insiders Roundtable show. So we'll be working on it over the next year. It's probably going to take forever. We're probably going to have the worst time ever in negotiating the corridors of City Hall. But we're super thrilled. I mean, we're a super small brewery. It's great that we're going to be opening a place.
Why did you decide to open up another tap room to take more
Well,
business from,
we had two breweries open 2 years ago. We
Did you
had our
consult with
brewery on
Michael Roper
Halstead.
about this?
Our brewery on Halstead was open, while our new brewery on Iron Street was open. So it's not anything new for us to have two breweries here in Chicago since we've had them for a
Will
while.
both the floors be intact and not
But the difference, of
peril
course,
of
is that you'll be
collapse.
able to try the beer at this new second location.
right? And that's the main purpose of it, right?
Yeah, we want to provide a wide range of our beers to people because, I may have mentioned or may have not have mentioned, like a lot of people just have one of our beers on draft if, we're lucky to get them on draft anywhere. In the world that we're living in right now where these restaurants and bars are constantly rotating their handles, we're never guaranteed to have our beer anywhere at any time. We feel it's in our best interest to provide those beers to our fans and friends we have and friends we're yet to meet in a location that's on the north side, which is coincidentally a block away from the first Lumpen headquarters.
There you
So
are.
it's very nostalgic as well.
Well, that's very, very big news.
You think so?
What's the timeline? I don't know. I gotta say that.
Thanks,
be
Chris.
done.
Chris is feigning excitement.
I
It has to be done
I
in
don't
like
think
2 or 3
anyone-
months.
I
Right?
don't think anyone cares.
It's actually opening tomorrow.
Like May 2019 at the latest.
I will predict, and now I've just jinxed and ruined the entire project. by December 25th, 2019.
Whoa!
Wow, that actually is very
No
aggressive.
way.
Very
I'll already
aggressive
go on
timeline.
record and say no
Yeah.
way.
All right, see you in
But
2030.
for
EdMar's GC.
for those who are listening live, we're all heading there after this, so
Oh yeah.
we'll see you there.
It's actually open now. You should show up.
We're gonna-
well,
see you
if
there.
you know the secret password,
That's
which
right.
is,
Ham sandwich.
Sandwich.
see you there.
Yeah.
Ham
If I did go there, I would. If they said there's a password, I would say ham sandwich.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, I really would.
I would have said cholo.
No, ham
No, ham
sandwich,
sandwich.
is totally more of a
The
thing.
more
Yeah.
message
Maybe.
secret.
Yeah.
Got it. Very articulate.
But thanks, Chris, for forcing that announcement tonight.
You're
You're
welcome.
exclusive.
I've
man.
Thanks for
completely
coming on.
ruined the entire project.
Anything else anyone would like to say in closing? Dave, anything you would like to add before you get on your merry way?
No, thanks for having me.
Cool.
I just,
Love all the breweries represented tonight.
When's
We
your
love selling
event at
your product.
Thank you,
when's
Dave.
your
We love you.
event at Bavarian Lodge?
The
13th.
13th.
Okay.
I just
Yeah.
want to say,
6
Maybe
p.m.
maybe you could say that. I'm trying to tease it out of you.
I
Yeah.
forgot what date it was. They moved
I had to Google it.
They changed it last week, so.
Well,
Serge,
thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it. I know it was last moment, so I appreciate you coming on.
The snow helped
Serge,
us.
as inept as you are as a producer, you are adept at being a good human being. So you can always take that home with you.
All right. Is there anything of worth you'd like to say, Mike?
Jeez. Tough crowd.
Sometimes you ride the L and you get a Book of Mormon, and it really changes your life.
All right.
They'll trap you.
I guess what I'll say is, yeah, I had forgotten about it until you just mentioned it. We were
The Book of Mormon?
The Book of Mormon. I opened it up, and in there was a
There was a
link
pic-
to a rape beer.
A picture of Jesus.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
rate
we
beer
were rate
bookmark
beer.
is
Yeah,
in
we
the
were
Book
rate
of Mormon.
beer
Wait, was
bottle
it-
shop. Or
Was
something.
it rate beer or hate beer?
It was hate beer.
Hate beer.
No, you guys won one of the best bottle
There he
shops
is.
in
Mr.
Illinois,
Hate
right?
Beer
Yeah.
2018.
Yeah. So, I want to thank everyone out there for listening. Cholo to Cholo is the best way to spread the word.
That's right.
So,
C2C marketing.
Make a review on the podcast
King
on
of
a
iTunes.
Make a review.
Drink your
a
pastry
review.
stouts.
5 bottle caps.
You know what else I'd like to say? Let's get the letters going again. So, insiders at craftbeertemple.com for anything you'd like to have us talk about, or any questions you have, or maybe a correction, a factually inaccurate thing that was said, any number of times on this show.
Never.
Thanks to everybody. We will be back next week with more of the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. So long. Thanks, Serge.
Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again.